Stakeholder dialogue is the art of balancing interests. In a world where decisions can affect millions, from shareholders to local communities, from employees to end users, stakeholder dialogue is no longer a moral luxury, but a survival skill. Dialogue, at its deepest level, is not about immediate consensus. It is about keeping a shared space open, where different values can coexist without canceling each other. It is the art of structuring conversation where conflict is not hidden, but heard and transformed. From global climate summits to corporate boardrooms, what separates a mature organization from a reactive one is its capacity for balanced dialogue, not avoidance, not imposition. Stakeholder dialogue is not about who wins, but about how everyone stays meaningfully present. An organization is truly strong not when it eliminates disagreement, but when it transforms tension into collaboration through listening. In an era where every decision is embedded in multi-layered networks of influence spanning politics, environment, technology, and culture, stakeholder dialogue is no longer a communications task, but has become the core of modern governance. A business cannot be sustainable without listening to the community in which it operates. A public policy cannot be viable without including marginalized voices. And an educational institution becomes obsolete if it does not engage with students, parents, and society. In organizational psychology, dialogic leadership is seen as one of the most progressive competencies of the 21st century. Leaders no longer make decisions top-down, but create spaces for shared decision-making. Here, dialogue is no longer about information exchange, but relational transformation. What's most important? A real dialogue does not always lead to immediate agreement, but it must ensure that every party feels they still have a meaningful role in the process. And that is an art that no school teaches. It is learned through patience, active listening, and the courage to recalibrate expectations. A common mistake in multi-stakeholder meetings is assuming that if everyone speaks, we have dialogue. In fact, speaking is not dialogue. Dialogue requires a different kind of space, where people don't just wait for their turn to talk, but actually listen to be changed. In the deep democracy model, psychologist Arnold Mindell argues that dialogue only occurs when people allow the unknown to enter their mental framework, meaning they open themselves to be affected by difference. In organizations, this means that leaders must not only speak well, but know when to stay silent so others can truly show up. More importantly, a good facilitator is not someone who rushes consensus, but someone who can hold silence and tension, allowing people to step out of comfort zones and truly see one another. Only then does dialogue become a healing process, not just a communication tool. In multi-interest contexts, dialogue is not just exchange of ideas, it is the redefinition of boundaries between self and collective. When businesses, governments, and communities sit down together, they're not merely discussing private interests, they're negotiating the shared space where they all exist. Here, interests go beyond economics. They include emotions, identity, history, and unspoken hopes. A balanced dialogue does not aim to make everyone alike. It allows all parties to be fully present and equally weighted in the decision-making process. According to Arend Leifart's consociational democracy, multi-ethnic democracies are only sustainable when they guarantee fair representation for minorities, not just for presence, but for real influence. This is a lesson for all organizations. If you seek sustainable solutions, ensure that everyone feels they are part of the answer, not just subjects of the outcome. No multi-stakeholder dialogue succeeds without a facilitator who embodies balance. In complex situations, from conflict resolution to corporate innovation, the facilitator's role is not to manage time, but to hold emotional rhythm, trust, and structure. This person must not only understand the content, but sense the psychology of each group and individual, maintaining coherence even under stress. In Ronald Heifetz's adaptive leadership model, effective leaders hold uncertainty so that others can learn, instead of rushing into answers. This means facilitators must treat conflict as a resource, not a threat. They don't fix problems. They maintain a structure in which problems can transform through authentic engagement. This is a form of soft leadership, but one with deep ethics and powerful creative potential. Ending a dialogue does not mean ending commitment. True dialogue begins when parties leave the table and start realizing what was imagined together. Therefore, every dialogue design must include phases for follow-up, feedback, and adjustment. One of the biggest errors is treating dialogue as an event instead of a process. Trust cannot endure without return. In relational accountability theory, every promise made in dialogue needs an ecosystem of support, where party A knows party B is still listening, even after the formal talk ends. In organizations, this can take the form of transparent follow-up emails, a check-in after 30 days, or a dedicated progress tracking team. Only then does dialogue stop being a fleeting moment of goodwill and become a long-term enactment of shared values. Dialogue is not a technique. It is a living commitment to honor difference as a natural part of human life. An organization, community, or nation matures only when it accepts that conflict is inevitable, but tension can be guided. Dialogue is the art of that guidance. It demands more than goodwill. It requires structure, skills, emotional intelligence, and persistent patience. But what it yields is not just solutions. It is a renewed sense of living together in shared reality. From there, actions gain grounding, resonance, and dignity. A real dialogue doesn't end when the meeting does. It ends when each party carries a part of the other within thought and action. In a time where fragmentation weakens community bonds, sustaining balanced stakeholder dialogue is an act of peace-building, not only socially, but internally. Anyone can learn to listen deeply, to ask not to refute but to understand, and to shift perspectives with courage. Then, dialogue is no longer a tool of persuasion. It becomes a space to co-create a world with more than one truth. If you believe that honest listening can change how organizations behave, share this message. Share it with someone facing conflict to remind them there is another way. Not avoidance, not imposition, but listening to understand. Click like if you believe a timely word can save a relationship. And subscribe to join the journey of crafting human-centered dialogue where difference doesn't divide, but enriches community.